Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swagglehos. And in this video, we got to talk about how we got them right where we want them. That is right. Dealers, we got you right where we want you because comic book collectors are in a great position right now based on what's going on with comic book prices. I don't know about you guys, but everywhere I go, I'm starting to see a lot of capitulation with a lot of dealers out there. I mean, not just the Instagram accounts that are selling consignments. I'm actually seeing a lot of, eBay stores and other online stores finally dropping down their prices to what is effectively fair market value. And that means that collectors are definitely going to benefit from that because we got them right where we want them. Because, with everything going on in the global economy, where we're headed, 2023, this tough 2022 cycle, everything is going to zero. I decided to look back at the 2008 financial crisis when we had the housing crash and see if we can get any determinations of what happened to comic books at that time. So in this video, we're going to take a look at some numbers together and see if we can make any projections of where we're going to be in the next couple years. But before I get into the video, if you guys could drop me a like or comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, helps for the channel, do one of those things I would appreciate. But let's get into this video here today. Now, I put together a few books that I wanted to look over the numbers with you guys, just kind of thumb through some things and see if we can kind of just get a broad understanding of what happened to comics, the last time we had this recession. I mean, a lot of people have always kind of thrown out that idea that comic books are recession proof. I'm not totally so sure that that is the case, although I was kind of surprised to dig through some numbers and see that, generally speaking, comic books did hold up pretty well overall. So in this video, I kind of want to show you guys some, books that I think are interesting. And there's one book in particular I feel like can give us the best example of kind of where we are today. And that is specifically Fantastic Four number 48, first appearance of the Silver Surfer. Now, why do I want to target that book for our video here today? Well, because we got the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer movie in 2007. Before the economic collapse. And that would have been peak FOMO, peak fervor for that particular book right there in the market. And that's why I think it's a really good case study to analyze with what's going on today because, we're coming off of peak MCU FOMO, peak MCU hype, and now we're going into this economic crisis, this recession right now. And I feel like that can be kind of a canary in the coal mine, so to speak, of what we can expect for that particular book. So let's kind of dig into the numbers here. I want to take you guys through my journey, but before I really do that, I do want to show you guys this chart. I absolutely love this thing so much. I feel like at some point in the future, I'm going to do a video on this, or maybe I can do like a whiteboard video on this, but this perfectly represents the mindset of investors, whether it comes to stocks or comics or crypto or whatever the case may be. We're totally right now into the capitulation phase. I mean, we might even be in the despair phase with a lot of books, depending on what you're looking at or what you're thinking about. I'm thinking about, ASM 101 and Avengers 196. I think that those books are currently in the despair phase. So I think that this is a really good time, but we'll talk about that at some other point. I just kind of wanted to show you guys that graph. But of course, the book we're going to focus on today is Fantastic Four number 48, first appearance of the Silver Surfer. This is a really good book to take a look at because, like I mentioned, we had the film at that time, but also this is one of the highest Silver Age census books and one of the ones that is always in demand. It's constantly being bought, constantly being sold. So, generally speaking, even with a small sample size, we can get a decent summary of what happened. Also, I want to look at Incredible Hulk 181, not just because we're coming off of the news of Hugh Jackman returning, but another book, that represents the Bronze Age as one that has a very high volume and is always being looked at in the markets. So let's kind of dive right into this video. And don't worry, I'm not going to show you guys too many crazy graphs and numbers and stuff. I know it gets a little bit dense from time to time. I'm going to make this really, really clean and simple for you guys. So let's start by looking at Fantastic Four 48 and specifically looking at the CGC 6.0. Now, what I did is I went back all the way to 2006. That would have been the year before we got, the Silver Surfer movie. And I basically calculated all of the average numbers of sales with GPA data up through 2013. So here are the results that I had based on all of the sales data that you could see. Now, I know that's a lot of numbers, but let me just kind of paint the story for you guys here. So in 2006, the average book price at the CGC 6.0 was around, $205.37. We had 8 sales that particular year. Then in 2007, the book shot up to $238.70 as a basic average value, where we had 10 sales that year. So that would have been peak, hype for Silver Surfer, the film, and a lot of sales going on. Then we have the 2008 crisis hit. And basically that does have a little bit of a pullback, a little bit of effect on the values of Fantastic Four 48. You see it drop down to $212.50 and only 6 sales. So not only did the prices go down, but there were less people looking to buy. Then you go to 2009, and that's when it gets really interesting. The prices drop down to $201, so they go down even further, and you have a lot more sales at 14. So you have probably what I would assume is this kind of liquidation process. A lot of people are really feeling the economy being down. They just kind of want to get any sort of value out of their book that they can. And so a lot of people are cutting deals, a lot of capitulating, a lot of people selling, and that's kind of what's going on in 2009. And then 2010, we start to trend back up at 208. 2011, we get to 225, and then 2012, we're back to peak prices and so on and so forth. And then this book does what it does. So this is kind of the visual of what that graph looks like, where we have, the height of the film in 2007, we hit the 2008, financial crisis. It drops down. 2009, we're in despair mode. And then 2010, 11, we start to trend back up before going to 2012, where now we're reaching all-time record highs, at least in terms of averages for this particular book. Similarly, if we look at the 8.0 grade, I won't belabor this one, but this one basically has a very similar journey, a very similar narrative, where you have peak prices, kind of in 2007, even into 2008, a little bit with this particular grade. Then 2009, you kind of hit that despair level. 2010 is obviously a high year, but then 2011 is back down. But we can consider this being kind of a, generally speaking, starts to trend back up after 2009. And then when we kind of take the sum of both of these grades, what we basically see is that after you have the peak of the film in 2007, prices slowly start to go back down, dropping all the way down to $650 in 2009, which generally speaking is about a 20% correction off of the height of 2007. And then 2010 through 11 up through 2012 is when the book finally gets to kind of break out once again, and that kind of sets its all new record high. So I kind of feel like if we're going to make this kind of an analogy to where we are today, I kind of feel like, the 2007 is basically 2021. Then in 2008, we're kind of going to 2022 levels, which is where we are today. And then, 2023 is going to be our 2009, which effectively is going to be the bottom overall. But, that's not to say that you can't still get the best prices you can for, a particular book that you're looking for, today. You definitely can. These are just average numbers. And in any given year, there are record sale highs that are higher than the previous year and record lows that are lower than the previous year. So, depending on the deal that you find, it could be a good buying opportunity altogether. These are just the averages. And I feel like, next year is probably going to be like, again, the low of everything that we're going to see in the comic book market before things start to trend up once again. But before I kind of wrap it all up, let's talk about 181 for a second, because I also think this paints a very interesting picture as well. I did the same thing where I kind of averaged out all the books and all the sales. And what I think is interesting about this book is that this is one that did not feel any effects from the 2008 financial crisis. You can actually see in 2006, it was 292. Then 2007, it was 383. 2008, 401. So still going up. 2009, 417, with even more sales in that year than any other year previously. But then in 2010, it goes down. And what is the reason for it going down in 2010? And why was it able to hold in 2009? Well, the reason for that is because in 2009, that's when we got the X-Men Origins Wolverine movie. So what that means to me is that this book was actually able to fight against the recession of the economy at that time because it had that tentpole movie that, was increasing the demand for this book. And it wasn't until 2010 where it started to have that pullback after we were, past the movie. But like the Silver Surfer book in 2012, that's all it took for us to kind of bounce back and for this book to jump back up into the market when, the overall global economy had recovered. So it's very interesting to see that. And I think, when we go to 2023 and we think about the Disney properties that are out there, if there are books and, specifically blue chip books that have, associations to films or movies and things like that, I do think that those movies is still going to be able to keep the floor levels up. At the CGC 8.0, very similar story for the Wolverine book here. Of course, in 2008 and 2009, it still trended up due to the movie. 2010 had a little bit of a pullback, but, it was very quick to bounce back up. And you can actually see from 2008 2008 to 2011, the book was actually, trading sideways for the most part, even through the economic downturn. So, that's kind of a good sign as well, whereas if you take the summary of this stuff, it shows that even if you didn't buy at the bottom, so to speak, in this current economic downturn, I mean, it feels like we're just going to trade sideways for a few years looking out down the line. And kind of when we get to, out of this kind of recession, when we're looking forward ahead, like maybe a couple years or so, my current projection is that when we get to 2025 and we're starting to get, Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars, those are going to be the years when, the comic book market creates that boom cycle once again. We'll probably be out of our kind of economic recession at the time as well. And I think that'll most likely create another boom cycle in the comic book market, because actually what we see, every 3 to 4 years when we get those Avengers films, that definitely drives up a lot of, speculation, a lot of hype, even for characters not associated with the Avengers. I just think that movie, that tentpole, movie that everybody is going to and is very significant in pop culture, makes everyone think about comic books and pushes a lot of, demand up to the overall market. So anyways, that's all I have for this video. That was me just kind of talking about, capitulation, a little bit of despair, where we kind of are in the market right now. I think that we got, dealers right where we want them. As collectors, I think this is a great opportunity still to pick up great keys out there. I think 2023, we might still see slightly less, in terms of, prices overall. But I feel like now too, especially in comparison to 2008 and 2009, things move so much faster now. People are a lot smarter. Information is more ready. So people are able to understand, what things, should cost and fair market values and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people, have already sort of priced in, a lot of the assets to have been corrected already. So I think, some of the deals you're seeing right now in some situations have actually been overcorrected. So I feel like, this is a really great buying opportunity for a lot of people out there. And, if we're looking at the last, economic recession, it didn't take long for comic books to once again reach their all-time highs. Anyways, that's all for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and we'll see you in the next one.